Hi, I'm Matt, also known as the Humble Bear. Welcome to Bear Chats, speaking all things mindfulness, mental health, spiritual well-being, just getting people in, real people from the spiritual community, and exploring their journey, where they've been, what they're offering, and what's going on for them. So today, I've got Elaine Tragett. She's from a company called Bold Decisions. She just started a coaching business, a fellow coach, and she's going to talk about her journey. I've been honoured to be part of that journey, a friend, a comrade in arms, and to witness this, really, really kind of like fast-paced, dedicated awakening from kind of 0 to 100, which has been amazing and kind of very similar to mine. We have some similarities and some differences, which is perfect for this kind of human existence. So, yeah, welcome, Elaine.
Hi there. Thanks so much, Matt. It's great to be here. Pretty surreal, but great.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. And we were chatting before this, how it was like nervous because it was like, oh, it's unscripted.
Yeah.
Our conversations have always flowed, from all of our interactions. So, yeah, it is nerve wracking. I get nervous.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah. But
part of
it's
this
good,
journey.
isn't it? Yeah, you're right. It is good. And it makes you sort of rethink your journey and rethink where you've come from and where you're going to. And
Exactly.
yeah, absolutely.
And it's important for people listening just think, we don't just jump on here and share this
Yeah.
stuff. We have
Yeah.
an opinion as well. So, yeah. So really, just to start with, I just wanted to invite you to share, your journey from wherever you want to start, to where you are today. Whatever you feel like sharing. It's really important for me, for listeners and watchers, viewers, to understand how normal we are, and how we weren't always kind of spiritual, and to be able to get that resonance, to be able to get that what's the word for it, to be able to kind of understand that we've been where people are, and in order to help them, and they're like, oh yeah, I've been there, that was me, I get that, and that's what I'm going through. It's really important for me to for people to see that. So yeah, over to you.
Wow. Okay. So cool. I mean, it's absolutely, I'm delighted to join here on Bear Chats. And I think the most amazing thing is when you asked me, of course, I watched your first one last week with Liam. And, the first thing that really, really struck me when you invited me to do the chats is that Liam and I come from the most different background you could ever imagine. And I think that is just nuts funny that, you've got Liam on one end of the spectrum and me on the other end of the spectrum, and I don't care which end of the spectrum it is, sort of thing. But yeah, I mean, most people that meet me and hear me and know the sport that I partake in probably think that I was born with a silver spoon in my mouth. And I've lived a very privileged upbringing. And yeah, to a certain extent, that was true up until the age of 15. I was privately educated. I did have everything I wanted. I did live in a large pad and a large farm and large estate and everything. And, I had the horses. And so, yeah, I did. However, that did all come shattering down when I was 15 years old. And I got home from boarding school one day to, yeah, I did actually physically see my father dead on the sofa. And suddenly that was it. My life was on a roller coaster of differences. What none of us realized until fairly shortly after his death was that we weren't wealthy. In fact, we were bankrupt. Um, so that led, I guess, to the survival instincts of Elaine kicking in, and that became the Elaine that most people would have known up until 2 years ago. Um, so I had to graft and keep my own roof over my head from the age of 15, whatever that may be, whether that was a car, whether that was working somewhere that had accommodation, etc. But from there, I became pretty hard-nosed. I was out to get everything I could, to be as big a success as I could within society. And I worked all over the world and everything, and then I sort of landed into the corporate career. And I went into that corporate career ladder I worked in America. I worked a lot in Rochester and Boston for a long time. I worked for big American corporates. And I made serious money doing this work. Interestingly, I was a female in a male world. So I was in the IT industry. And I can remember doing one huge presentation. It was actually in Disneyland Paris for an IT event. And I think there were 3,000 people there. And there was one female, and that was me. So, you know, I lived in that male dominated world. So you can imagine the type of person I became. So that's kind of my background. And then, as Matt says, you know, Matt and I, you know, Matt was one of the souls that literally dragged me out of that dark night. So for whatever reasons, I hit dark night of the soul back in November 2020. I had no idea what dark night was. I mean, this was a corporate, successful female who doesn't just melt. And yeah, I melted. Yeah, I hit the floor. I mean, never once did my career suffer. Never once did anybody know, my customers know, or anything. You know, I kept enough of my head or my mind to be able to keep my journey on that side going. And I think I told you this, Matt, ages ago, because it was the same forum that you and I met on. But I was on the floor. I was in a bad place. And I think it was sort of mid-January. I was scrolling through Facebook as you do, and this ad came up. And it was me. It was the dark night of the soul. It was, are you experiencing this? Are you experiencing that? Blah, blah, blah. Click here to buy my course. And I can always remember clicking on the course. And I can remember my mind then going, well, that's $400 of a scam you're never going to see again. And my mind just kept going, whoa, honey, you just spent $400 on what? And anyway, this course arrived and my mind was already in Freefall going, whoa, 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 I thought it was a scam. You know, and it was an 18-hour course, I think. And within an hour, I understood why I was where I was. And I think for me, that was the first recognition. And I think the terrifying thing for a lot of us, and maybe some of the people that are listening to this, is that you don't know what the dark night is unless you hit the dark night. You don't know what depression is unless you hit depression. And it's a very scary and lonely place because you don't understand, you know. Somebody as tough as me, as corporate as me, as successful as me, I mean, anybody would come around, they would see I've got a lovely little cottage in the Wiltshire countryside, I've got my horses, my dogs, you know, I earn okay money, you know, everything is cool about my life. So how could I be going, what is next? What is out there? Is this all there is? And of course, the dark night just takes you into that spiral of, you know, it puts you in touch with your soul. I actually did a YouTube live this morning, interesting, on what I think dark night is. And then, of course, you and I connected on that forum. I had trained in what we call neuro-linguistic programming, and I did a 2-year course, really, really intensive, hard work course in 2014. And I never ever used it because I always thought, oh, I want to be a life coach, I want to be a soul coach, I want to be a this coach. But I never really did anything with it. So I spent all that money, got the diplomas and the ticks in the boxes and everything. And I can always remember on the forum, you were asking, you know, can you train your mind like you can train a puppy? And immediately I just messaged you going, oh yeah, that's NLP, that's what I learned. And then we just bonded from there. And then, yeah, it all starts falling into place that I didn't know in 2014 that I would now start using my NLP. And I also didn't understand back then why I never used my NLP. But I didn't use my NLP then because I was missing what I found through Dark Night. So I was missing that connection to the soul. I was missing stripping away the conditioned Elaine. I needed to strip away the societal Elaine, didn't I? You know, I need to get rid of this bitter, twisted, fearful, God, the list goes on. you have to get out of, you go through ego death, you've got to get out of the mind, and and it's, we don't lie, it's a tough process, isn't it?
Yeah.
Seriously tough process staring at that mirror.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, the mirror doesn't lie, and you can duck and dive and dodge, but the second your soul is kind of awakening, because for me, dark night is actually your soul finally pushing through and going, you're going to listen to me. And the more you try not to listen to it, the harder it kicks you and the darker you go, and all you literally need to do is go, oh, hi soul, who are you? And straight away it gets lighter, doesn't it? And then with every day it gets lighter and lighter. And I think the really funny thing is you did a lot of coaching with me. You helped me a lot. You helped me get out of the mind a lot when your business was in its infancy, and we worked really, really well together. And I can always remember you saying, oh, you're going to find your soul purpose. What's your soul purpose? I want you to write down your soul purpose. I'm like, I don't have a soul purpose. I want to get rid of my mind. I love my corporate job. I have no soul purpose. Goodbye. And you were just constantly, no, write it down. What are you going to be doing this time next year? Blah, 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 blah. And look back and
what you wrote down as well.
I can too. It's scary, isn't it?
It's amazing. It's brilliant.
Because what was it, July 2021, I wrote a story how I would be running retreats.
Yeah.
And guess what? I launched my reset retreats in July 2022. And you know what? Until I just started talking to you now, I completely forgotten that I'd written that.
Yeah. So just for our listeners and for our watchers who may not understand the terminology or haven't been there or don't know whether they've been there, describe what the Dark Night of the Soul was for you. Describe what was going on for you, because I know what was going on for me in my experience, and I'm sure was similar to your experience.
Yeah, what was going on? Complete and utter confusion and a huge sense of irrational loss. So I just, whilst I could operate in my corporate world and keep my mind working for that, the rest of my life, I could barely function. So what was it? It was just completely, is this all there is? What is life about? I mean, it's a lot of people call it like the midlife crisis, don't they? And you're just like, what is the point of being here? Why am I here? And you start questioning on an irrational level, because your mind starts really, really fighting, because as you're going through the what is life about, why am I here, and then the mind makes up all this crap. And yeah, through the worst of it, I was drinking a significant amount of alcohol, just trying to deaden those voices, these crazy irrational voices. I was making up so much rubbish. So I think for anybody, it can be anybody sort of going over and over their past, or getting worried about their future, or just sitting there going, I don't want to do this anymore. And I can remember having that feeling of, I don't want to do this shit anymore. I've had enough of this shit. And I think you truly know when you're in the dark night, when you are in that darkest possible place, where no, I never really contemplated actual suicide. So I never actually contemplated, if I did this, I could end it. But I got to the place of, I don't see any point of going on. But I never kind of formulated a plan from there or anything. But yeah, it's the weirdest. And I think it's a massive feeling of being alone, because nobody'd understand.
Yeah.
And for me as well, on the outside, everybody would be like, what's wrong with her? What's her problem? She's got it all.
Yeah, and this is it, because I had a very similar experience. I had the crazy, like, obsessive thinking, really for a situation with a relationship that broke down, essentially, that was just ridiculous, for want of a better word.
Yep.
I've been I was about to say I was thinking I've been privileged enough to go through several dark nights of the soul, um, but it sounds
But it
great.
is a privilege.
Yeah,
It
yeah,
is a privilege.
it sounds crazy, but you know, my own personal experiences with suicide, and you know, actually after the last podcast, I had a conversation with my mum, who said, "Oh, you know, you said that your suicide was the best thing that ever happened to you, and you know, I don't think you meant that." And I was like, "No, I did, but not from a place of like, oh yeah, it was like fun and jolly, you know, from a place of it put me on this path. These situations, whether they be like in my instance, my first instance, from a rehab point of view, from the second instance, from this relationship point of view, they're just catalysts.
Yeah.
They're just catalysts and situations in my life that put me onto a path that where I needed to be. You know, if I had not gone down there, I would have just been doing the same old thing, and not on this journey of helping people. You know, and they truly are. We can get caught up in the subject. You know, the journey that we went on, people can get caught up in the subject of, I hope that mind me saying, of the twin flame experience.
Yeah.
People get
Yeah.
caught,
No.
right? We don't normally talk about it because it's easy for the mind to get dragged back there, and this is the thing. But it's like it was a catalyst for me. It was this, like you said, the soul giving me a boot up the arse and going, you need to wake up spiritually. You need to wake up. And yeah, you're right. Start questioning everything, and yeah, in a painful way, because the mind or the ego or whatever you want to call it is fighting back, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, I'm the same as you. I am so grateful for what happened. And yes, mine was the same. It was the relationship and everything. And I am so grateful. I'm so grateful to the catalyst. I'm so grateful to the mirror, because, you know, I am so privileged that I have started my awakening, because you're never awoken, because this is a constant journey, isn't it? It's a constant growth, it's a constant expansion. But to be awakening and to be so far up that ladder of awakening now, I mean, most people don't even find this in a lifetime. Most people may only start glimpsing this in their retirement, or glimpsing it on their deathbed. Whereas, you know, we are so privileged. I mean, some people band around words star seeds and this and that, but we are just so privileged to be in our soul at such a young age, and to be able to, at the ages that we are, okay, you're a lot younger than me, but we'll pass on that. But, you know, I still have plenty of life left in me to impart my knowledge and help others. And I think more and more of us are awakening. I think this planet, you know, if we want to go down the spiritual track, if people are listening on the more spiritual levels here, this planet is forcing a lot of people to awaken. And, you know, the way you and I were forced to awaken, the pain was so severe, we had no choice but to awaken.
Yeah.
And, you know, yeah, we don't talk about twins because it's just not a good energy to talk about. But it's so painful, you have no choice. You know, there was no way I could avoid going on awakening. I thought I was managing to avoid going into soul purpose, but as we can see, I've now got my business, I've now got my retreats, I now do soul coaching, I now do life coaching, and I'm sat here doing bear chats with you, with a company, with a website and a YouTube channel.
I know. It was so funny. I remember it. I really remember it really clearly. It's like that the resistance was hilarious.
Yeah.
No. I love my job. I love doing what I'm doing. I don't want to do anything. I just want to meditate and and
Yeah.
then it's been a beautiful journey. I mean, we'll get into to the retreats and all of that a bit later on. But your awakening has been inspirational for me. I remember, like, it was like 2 weeks into our interactions with each other from a kind of professional, if you want to call it, point of view, when you went through something quite substantial. Might have even been a week. I think it might have been a week.
I think it was the week before our first coaching session. Yeah.
And
Sorry, Matt, my mum's just died.
yeah, yeah. Literally, like you can't really get much more kind of
Yeah.
extreme than that. And the principles we were practicing as part of this group of presence, of being, and we'll get. I'd love to get
Yeah.
your kind of insights onto that in a minute. But you know, the practices we've been implementing meant I have never seen someone flow through that.
Yeah.
And I truly believe that you know a month earlier that would have just been.
Well, a month earlier, I'd have still been in the dark night and not even known what the dark night was. So yeah, I mean, mother actually managed to time her death to absolute perfection all round, you know, and she did have a beautiful death, you know, if there's such a thing as a beautiful death, she did. And yeah, she did time it pretty spot on. I mean, she managed it on Mother's Day, which I think is pretty good timing, really, as things go. But yeah, had I not met you, had I not been on that course, had I not learnt that everything happens for you, not to you, had I not been already moving out of that fear-based victim mentality. And I think it's the victim mentality that is, it was the quickest thing to shift for me, was the victim mentality. I think that was the easiest shift I did. And for others, that might be the hardest shift. But to stop thinking everybody's out to get you, or the world's out to get you, or, you know, why did she have to die then? It's not fair. Why did she do this? Why did she do, you know, that's what we generally go through when we go through a death of a parent, isn't it? Why did they leave us? Or why did they do that? Or it's not fair, blah, blah, blah. Whereas, yeah, I mean, I had you there, and I sent you a message going, mate, our first session's due tomorrow night. I'm really sorry, my mum's just died. But you know, you stepped up and you went, right, let's go for it, you know. So yeah, it was probably a bit of a steep learning curve for you as well, but equally for me, yeah, I put into practice what I had learned. So yeah, it was a fast track. And you know, if you want to go spiritual, the universe never makes a mistake. Yeah, it didn't seem to make that one either, you know, because it fast tracked me up a vibration level very, very fast, and made me truly believe in this. You know, I think some people think, what do you mean you just get out of your mind? You know, but you have to have life experience. Well, A, you have to find out how difficult it is to get out of the mind. And then B, you have to have life experiences that test whether you can get out of the mind. I'm not advocating anybody loses a parent to test this theory. You know, maybe just have a little minor car crash or something, or a little minor debt or something that you have to overcome. You know, you don't have to go for the dramatic all in like I did, but yeah, it's fascinating.
And that's it. That's it, you know, because it's all good and well practicing being present or you know whatever you want to call it. Practice you know being presence, you know,
Yeah, in
witness,
the now.
whatever you want to call it. Yeah, yeah. It's all
Yeah,
good and well doing that in a very organized and orchestrated situation like meditation. You know, I've chosen a quiet space in the house where nothing's really going on. There's no noise, and you know, I've chosen 20 minutes. I'm going to set a timer on my phone or whatever. You know, like do a guided meditation, whatever it might be. And it's like, right, okay, cool. So everything in my external environment is controlled. So I'm going to put here, you know, and you're generally prepared for it. So there's no real triggers. It's just like, right, this is my container. Great, perfect. But when it comes to situations where there are triggers, you know, and the mind is doing somersaults, that's where the real practice comes in, right?
yeah,
And that's where, like, you know, that for you was like a blessing because
yeah,
you're put into this situation where the mind would you know normally would have wanted to do all kinds of acrobatics around whether it be victimhood or anger or you know
yeah.
grief.
Any of those, yeah,
Grief's a powerful
yeah, it
feeling.
is. And really, really interesting. I think I was only sort of 6 weeks into learning about this. So I think it had been about 6 weeks that I discovered that it was Dark Night of Souls. So it wasn't long before I had to kick what I was learning into practice. And it's just so powerful, because you can't shut this bugger up. It's always going off on shit, and it's just learning to observe it. So yeah, it wanted to crack off with it's not fair, or why me, or why that, and you're just like, and you just let it do whatever it wants to do. You just don't buy into what fuckwittery it's on about, because I did a really good exercise. It was only over a couple of days where I'd just let my mind do what it wanted, and the way it could flip from, oh, I really like that person, oh my god, that person's so nice, oh my god, should we go out to dinner with that person, to within 6 hours going, that person, that is the worst person on this planet. And you're like, why did what? And you just don't. I say that Google is more reliable than this. It's scary how it can just absolutely flip, can't it? How many times have we done something where it thinks it's the best thing in the world to do it, and then it's like, no, that was a really bad decision, why did we do that?
Yeah, you're gonna have to look at, like,
Yeah,
you late at night or whatever, and you fancy some crisps, and you eat a pack of crisps, and right afterwards, mind's like, why did you do that? You shouldn't have done that.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
the worst. What? Like, it's crazy.
It is. It just spins you. And talking about, it's really interesting that I've actually set up a thing called Reset Retreats, because actually I did all my work without retreats. And I had another really, really close sort of friend who helped me and sort of coached me a little bit through this. And she was so amazed that I could do as much as I'd done, as fast as I'd done, without going into an ashram, without going up into a mountain in Tibet and things like this. And I sometimes think that people think you can only go on this journey if you go to far-flung retreats, or you spend a fortune and you drop out of society. Never once did I drop out of society. Never once did I take a day's holiday. The work is about staring in a mirror. The work is about going inside, and you can do that anywhere.
Yeah.
I had the blessing, and some people will think this is a bit weird, all of my stuff went on through COVID. So I had the blessing of COVID that meant that nobody thought I was being weird when I stayed at home.
Yeah.
Oh, she's being a good girl, obeying the COVID rules. So I could go within without having to put out excuses to society as to why I didn't want to go to the pub, or why I didn't want to do this, or why I didn't want to do that. So that was good. But yeah, you don't have to go and sit on the top of a mountain cross-legged chanting. That's, if you want to, that's fine. But you don't have to spend a fortune. You don't have to do much. All you need is a mirror. And even then, you don't need a physical mirror. You just need a mirror. So yeah, it's quite interesting that I've created Reset Retreats. And the reason I call it Reset is that I'm not meaning for it to be somewhere you go and get out of life. I'm saying, you come here for 2 days and I give you the tools for you to then go away and look in that mirror.
Yeah.
Yes, you can retreat whilst you're here. Yes, you can get out of society whilst you're here. But, it's all about sitting in nature, connecting with nature, and just giving you some really useful techniques, meditation and things like that.
And it is a beautiful space.
Yeah.
I've been privileged enough to host cacao ceremonies there.
Yeah.
And that was this time last year, I think.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was my second cacao ceremony I'd ever held, and
yeah.
It was kind of like you wanted a cacao ceremony, and you were like, I've got a space in the garden. And I was like, hey, let's put one on there.
Yeah, let's go for it. And now that space is this time last year when you wanted to put your tent up, I got out a really masculine man-sized strimmer, didn't I? And made a space for the tent. Yeah. And now I've got the most beautiful space out there. I've got fire pits, I've got little teepee tents, I've got homemade furniture, and I've made it into such a special place. And I was investigating. I always knew that I lived in a fairly spiritual place because I'm in Wiltshire, but I didn't realise that I'm very much on the Stonehenge ley line, the Avebury ley line. Avebury is literally just over the hill. My water system is fed from a spring that sits directly on the Avebury ley line. So all of that energy is probably mixing around, and you can see one of the white horses from my place. But what I want to do is normalize this journey. You can be a normal girl earning good money, having a corporate career, enjoying competing the horses. So I'm very, very competitive in my horse world. So spiritualism isn't about walking away from anything. Not one aspect of my life has actually changed. The only thing that's changed is here. And I think people need to understand that is possible. Now, it may be that as you awaken, you want to change what you're doing. And that's okay, isn't it? You've changed your career, and that's okay. You've changed how you eat. You've changed a lot about you, whereas I've changed very little about me. And that's okay. And I might evolve and do more changes. And you might evolve and do more changes. But I think the important thing is it doesn't matter, does it?
No. And this is it. We're all unique human beings. We all have a unique journey, and we all have our own perspectives. And it's like, from the way I like to understand it and to put it is, it's like source or God or universe experiencing itself through all the different sets of circumstances and perspectives, and it's like it needs that dualistic and polarized kind of environment in order to experience the whole. It's like, otherwise it's like, if you didn't have that, it's like, if you don't have hot, then how do you know cold? I mean, it's like, it'd just be one. It's like, and it's the same with this awakening or this journey or whatever. It's like, everyone's got their own experiences, and I've had conversations with people before about jobs and things, especially when we get into this spiritual world and you start talking about 3D jobs and 5D jobs. For those that don't necessarily know those terminologies, like 3Ds, like your run-of-the-mill kind of
non-serving job, or what people
non-serving,
perceive as non-serving.
and the fifth dimension is love, joy, happiness. Third dimension is a lot of fear and a lot of control and that kind of thing. And they they'll have people say, oh, I really should be doing a more 5D job, and it's like, oh, okay, what are you doing? Oh, I'm painting nails, right? For example, this is just an example. I'm painting nails. I'm like, okay, would you enjoy doing that? Yeah, I love it, right? And do your customers enjoy doing that? You doing that? Yeah, they go away, they really love them. I'm like, well, then that's
serving. Exactly.
It doesn't have to be coaching, ceremonies, all these what we class as spiritual things, healing, all that stuff. It doesn't have to be something so metaphysical in that spiritual world.
And it's just how you kind of frame it, isn't it? It's why are you doing it? It's your intention behind that job. And there are so few jobs on this planet that are bad jobs. Okay, if you're manufacturing tobacco or you're cutting cocaine or something, but we might want to move on from that job. But I'm a salesperson in the IT world, in the corporate world, but I can frame that through that I'm putting food on the table for 5 to 10 families. I am ethically selling my services. I never do my customers over, so I'm ethically doing a job that is in quite a cutthroat world. But it doesn't matter if I'm doing it from a place of pure intention. So I'm not doing it to make money so that I can have external gratification. If people are doing it because they want the next big car, they want the next big house, they want the next, because they want to compare themselves to somebody else, that is wrong. If you want to go out and work your ass off and have a lovely new car because you want one, that's fine. It's where the intention of it comes from that is important. Don't buy the new car because you think it's going to make you feel better, because it won't. But if you want a new car and you can afford the new car, why not? I think one of the books that really, really saved me was the Michael Singer collection of books. So The Untethered Soul, and the Surrender Experiment. His latest wasn't out at the time, but it's and I think it started. Michael Singer is one of the wealthiest businessmen in America. He is a billionaire. You know, he owned WebMD, and yet he has always been a yogi in the woods. He is one of the most spiritual people you will ever find on this planet. And yet, you know, he could earn the money. And I look at money now as an exchange of energy.
Yeah.
And it is an exchange of energy. And if we go back, and if anybody watches the Samadhi movies or anything, the dollar, the sign for the dollar, that came from the original serpent and the original kundalini of energy. So the dollar sign is historically a sign of energy transference. And I think as long as you then look at money that way, that I'm earning some energy to then transfer onto others. I'm not earning it to say, look how clever I am. My energy comes in to go out to others. So it's a flow then, isn't it?
Yeah, and this is where we're moving from the toxic traits of humanity, where the world has gone to a place of, you can call it the patriarchy, you can call it toxic masculinity, you can talk, and when I say masculine, I don't just mean men.
Yeah.
It's those energies within all of us, you know, those energies of what's everything that's kind of like going wrong in the world, the greed, the control, the fear, you know, all these elements, they're coming from a place of toxic masculinity.
Yeah.
It's that difference between, you know, I was talking about it at the weekend at an event up in Manchester where we were discussing what it means to be a man, and it's that, or the divine masculine, you know, and it's that that ability to recognize that you can have power and strength without control, without being controlling.
Yeah.
And we were talking about this before, you know, we were talking about this before we went live, around women in business or women in sport, and how those toxic masculine traits are very present in the feminine, in women as well. You know, it's not just the businessman, and it's because, you know, I recognize it and I see it a lot, but because it's the society we've been raised in, where it's all about competition, it's all about service to self and looking after our personal gains, hoarding.
Yeah.
It's like hoarding. I need to hoard all these resources.
Or the more I have, the more powerful I am. And yeah, your true power comes from just beautiful power within, doesn't it? I don't need a new car to say that I'm successful, because I'm successful in love. A new car isn't going to change what my success is. My success is within, isn't it? And it's my own personal power, and I'm feeling empowered, isn't it?
Yeah.
And just realizing that you don't need any of this society expectations or societal crud, and, you know, and get off the wheel. And we're not saying get off the wheel and don't do your corporate job anymore. It's just get off the wheel of what it means. And that's where, you know, I really want to show to people that, you know, my life literally has not changed, yet it's changed beyond all. You know, and that's not, you know, I still have the same car on my driveway, I still earn the same money, I still do the same things, I still socialize more or less with the same people, although they did change a bit. But me as a person has changed beyond all recognition.
Yeah. And it's that and it's that understanding when we practice, when we put into practice these practices.
This whole journey is a paradox. We have to get that.
When we put these things into practice, and we start getting out of the mind and getting into being, getting into the spirit, into the soul. You know, when we and a lot of this is for people who are not necessarily haven't come across a lot of this stuff before. You know, a lot of this is the basis of pretty much every single spiritual teaching that's ever been written. just in different words. Different people resonate with different things. So it's like, oh, one person resonates with Hinduism and they follow the deities and they do it through that way. They go through, Shiva and Shakti and all these elements. Or you've got someone else who might do yoga and through that way. Or someone who picks up an Eckhart Tolle book like we started with and reads The Parrot Now and goes, oh, okay, I need to not listen to the mind and just be in the present moment. And the Bible talks about it as well. It's all they're all signposts.
Oh, every single religion is the same if you strip it back. It's all saying the same thing if you strip it back. And unfortunately, society has just created religious divides as well, and religion divides people as well, which is really sad. And even in our own spiritualism, people think it's a cult or a religion or whatever, and it's not. It's just a way of being. And I don't know if you can remember this one, but I think it was 6-8 months into my practice, and I was pretty good at being in the present moment. I was pretty much there. I was enjoying my meditation. I do a lot of walking meditation. So that's another thing. People think meditation is about sitting cross-legged, humming and whatever. Meditation is only about ensuring you are in the present moment and not stuck in the mind. And I learned to meditate walking because my mind would not accept sitting down. So I was like, okay, right, I'll take the dog out and I'll learn it walking. So, there are lots and lots of them, and I've done a YouTube on the different meditations. But I think I suddenly phoned you up because I loved the book, The Tao Made Easy. And I just loved that book. And it says, before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. After enlightenment, chop wood and carry water. And that day, I had just found what they call your seat. So taking your seat is not sitting cross-legged. It's actually sitting behind the mind and just watching it do its. And without consciously sitting behind, you are just suddenly sat behind your mind. And that's what they call taking your seat in a lot of religions, isn't it? And I finally took my seat. And it was so funny because that day I live on a small holding. Guess what I was doing? I was actually chopping the wood and carrying water for the horses. And it just made me chuckle. Actually, that saying is so right. Nothing actually physically changes in your being. You still have to do within being.
It's where it comes from, right? So because we've had very similar experiences, and when we've been practicing and putting these in practice, we've discovered that these feelings, all the feelings we have, whether all the joy and the bliss and the love, they don't come from another person, they don't come from a new car, they don't come from a new house. They're actually within us. And all right, like when you get a new person or a new relationship or a new car, and suddenly you do feel, oh yeah, I feel really good, but it's short-lived because then it's like, oh, what's next? It's not new anymore. The car doesn't smell new. The person starts to have habits. It's like, but it's like when we realize, or you start to realize that those feelings and those emotions and that source of power, like you talked about earlier, that empowerment is within us. And it's like, right, well, how, rather than going outside of myself and looking around the world and going, how can I make that feeling happen? It's like, right, well, how can I look at what's inside me stopping me from feeling that all the time? And breaking down and looking at it. And that's truly what work is. It's like, right, where are my blockages? Where are my triggers? Where are my granthes or knots or whatever you want to, whatever.
It doesn't. And you know what I always found is that the fascinating thing is you can find something, so you go within and you're going, right, what is that? So I think I said to you before we went live that I found one only a couple of days ago where I was measuring my success against the failure of another person. And I was doing it very, very subtly and not too nastily, thank God. But that's what I was doing. And I'd been given a mirror to show me that, actually. And the fascinating thing is, now that's pretty large and pretty nasty. But how do you get over that? and all you literally do is shine a light on it, and it can just go instantly. I now have to write down quite a few of my big stripping moments of stuff, because I genuinely can't remember them. Because you spend the whole night crying or shaking or screaming or punching the pillow or doing whatever you want to do to release this trapped shit within you, and then as soon as you release it, it's gone, and you're like, oh, what was it I was releasing? And because it's gone, you're like, oh, and I almost sometimes got upset with you, because I think we'd work on something and we'd find something in me, and then it was gone, and it's like, oh, well, that wasn't difficult. The difficulty is not releasing. The difficulty is staring at it to allow it to release. And I think that's again where these retreats and this work that I want to do is just to show, you don't need to sit on a counselor's couch and go through your whole life history. That's not what this journey is about, is it? It's just, you get a mirror, you get a trigger, you go, oh, what's that triggering me? Oh, let me look at that. Oh, it's gone.
Just for people listening in that might not know, talk to me about what you mean by a mirror.
Oh, I think people, animals, situations come into our life to maybe show us something about ourselves. So that's how I see it. So I don't know, have you ever had a person come into your life that really grates on you? And it's really, really worth looking, why do they grate on me? Because it's not that person that is grating. They will be doing something in their behavior pattern that actually your soul is going, honey, you do that. Yeah. And it's recognizing that, and it's not saying, oh, that person's horrible, or that person's just that person. They're just trundling along. They've got that trait. Good, bad, ugly, it doesn't matter. It's just a trait. They've got that trait. But hey, they're actually mirroring back to you, because it's triggered something in you that now you have to look at it. And the other thing is, how, if you go out for a drive, you will pass a million things that will just pass through your psyche. So the white lines, the cat's eyes, the junctions, the trees, they'll just pass you by. Now your awareness is taking them in and let them go, taking them in and let them go. But then you get to a roundabout and somebody cuts you up. Now, you can either, in our world, just go, what a twat, he cut me up, never mind, and drive off and let it go. Or other people will grab hold of the steering wheel and start cussing and swearing. And for the rest of their journey, they are angry, they're upset, and they'll probably cut somebody up themselves, because they're so pissed off and so absorbed in their mind that they too then cut somebody else up on the roundabout. Yeah. Now, if we are an awakened being and we were cut up by that person, we're just like, oh, well, we got cut up, never mind. Poor person must have been having a bad day. Oh, well, never mind, no harm done. You've broken that cycle of that nasty energy, haven't you? Yeah. Whereas if you trigger into it and then you create a nasty moment for somebody else on another roundabout, it's just like, yeah, I don't know, does that make sense?
Yeah, and so it's like, yeah. So when it triggers us, it's like there's a lesson in the trigger. There's a sign in that trigger. I had a similar situation the other week where I got triggered in the way that I felt disrespected. And yeah, all right, you know what? I hold my hands up. I reacted to it. I didn't respond to it. I reacted to it. And then afterwards, where I am now, like, I can reflect on these things quite quickly and be like, so I'm feeling disrespected. What's that showing me? Where in my world am I disrespectful towards myself?
Yeah.
And towards other people. And actually, what I realised was that what the other person had done, I had done exactly the same, even to them. And I was like, oh, it's just showing me. And it's like, okay. And it's like you said, that in itself, just that shining that light of awareness on just the, okay, yeah, I behave like that. and then the trigger just goes, it just kind of like, just,
Yeah, it just goes.
just
And
disperses.
and that is the nuts thing. And I think, the course we went on, the really, really important thing, and even if you sort of Google dark night and everything, there is a physical fact that dark cannot reside within light. So, anybody watching this, try it, draw all the curtains, make it pitch black and turn on the light.
Yeah.
The darkness cannot, it's poof, it's a light,
That's it. I think Eckhart Tolle said, no one reaches for the light switch, for the dark switch, sorry.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
dark goes, I want it dark, let's switch the dark.
Yeah.
Like, no, it doesn't work
It
like
is. And the quicker that we can all see that you just shine the light on whatever is upsetting you. So if we call it triggers, okay, that's a spiritual word, just say upset. So if something upsets you, or something just hits you, or you just anything, that is what we would call a trigger. And that's right, look at it, what's it teaching you? And it doesn't matter if you go off and do the same behavior again, because you probably will, because it's learned behavior over many, many years. And you need to do your tapas, your 21 days. How do you break a habit? It takes 21 days to break a habit. So you may well behave like that again. But the next time you behave like that, you'll behave like it with conscious awareness of it. So then you're just like, so my roundabout analogy, so somebody pisses you off on the roundabout and you may still react, but then actually half a mile down the road, you're like, oh no, just let that go. And again, you've then broken the cycle because you no longer cut somebody else up.
And and it's important to look at this stuff and look at it with awareness, because it's easy to get into, and I've experienced this quite a bit recently, to get into that kind of like spiritual bypassing, which for those who haven't experienced it, it's like, I'm going to go and hide in positive thinking or metaphysical world, doing readings or, connecting to source or connecting to whatever it may be in order to help other people normally, so that positive vibes only and all that kind of thing. Something here, and it's like, what's happening now on the planet is that I see it, but the light, as we shared earlier, that the vibration of the planet and the light flooding into this planet is getting so high that that's no longer, you can't avoid it anymore. And I listen to a guy called Tim Wilde. I don't know if you've come across him. But he was talking about it, and he's been on this journey for a long time. And he said we used to just like blast it with a bit of white light and be like, yeah, so everything's all. He's like, now everyone's having to face, to face their shadow, and it's like the universe in those situations. And actually, for anyone who's listening and maybe thinking, oh, light in the planet, spiritual woo woo again, like, I follow a person on Instagram called A Girl in the Universe, and she uses NASA instruments, so scientific instruments, to measure the light, so the light and the energy coming in from the sun, planet, and also the Schumann resonance, which is the vibration of the Earth, which I believe is normally 7.8. I don't know, don't quote me on that, something hertz anyway. And but it's all increasing, the light coming into the planet is actually, we're getting more, call it radiation, call it light energy, call it photons, whatever you want to call it. It's flooding in, and it's coming around all these, it's coinciding with events that spiritual people are talking about.
Oh, completely. And more and more spirituality and physics, quantum physics and quantum entanglement particularly, are coming closer and closer together. I mean, I found myself reading Stephen Hawking's. I mean, hello. I mean, what would I be doing? But it is all so interconnected. And actually, Michael Singer's latest book that he brought out this year, Living Untethered, his first 2 chapters talk all about physics and the photons and the neutrons and the supernova stars. I mean, it is all, don't think that Einstein's thingy of relativity, the EMC squared thingy, whatever it is. I mean, that's it. That's the one. That is pure spirituality. And, this is the black holes and everything else. And I mean, one of my relatives is the least spiritual you will ever hear in your world. And even he mentioned to me the other day, he went, all these satellites are getting kicked off with all these weird solar storms. He said, is this what you lot are up to? And it's like, no, mate, that's the universe, you know. But it is what we're up to, because we're raising the vibration. Mother Earth cannot be sustained the way she is being sustained with all this hatred and all this fear. Something has to happen, and more of us are awakening. And, you know, some of us are forced to through our connections. And, you know, if you go into the twin physics, you know, that is the splitting of the atom. It's mind-blowing, you know. It really is. And, you know, splitting the atom, you know, you can split an atom and it can travel all the way around the world, but it'll find itself again. I mean, it's just, at the end of the day, we're all just balls of energy.
Yeah.
The whole planet is just balls of energy. So yeah,
everything is just at different vibrations.
yeah.
Like
But I love following A Girl in the Universe. I think her stuff is brilliant as well. And yeah, it is. And I find as well, the more and more I start talking to awakening individuals who've been on this journey for some time, a lot have very physics-based backgrounds. I mean, you and I do. You and I both come from IT. We both come from that physics logical background. We don't come from that creative, hairy fairy world. And it's quite interesting that I've got a lot of friends who have that physics background or are interested in quantum physics and things like that. And yeah, I've become interested in it. I mean, who would have ever thought I'd read Stephen Hawking's?
Yeah. And
but it all makes sense.
And I find it fascinating how you know, we were talking a minute ago about when we're doing inner work, when we're doing when we're looking for you know, when we're dealing with things, we're shining the light of awareness into the shadows. You know, that's what I call it, shadow work, because, you know, you shine a light into the darkness, you get the shadows, and you can see the shadows. You know, oh, okay, well, I work through that and release it. But it's almost like on the macrocosm, that's the microcosm, that's within us. You know, on the inside, on the external, the sun is quite literally shining more light into the planet, and all these shadows are coming up. You know, you see the craziness in the world, in the news. You know, we've got all these things, you know, I won't get into it, but the different, you know, elements of control and fear and being played out. And what it's truly showing us is that's a manifestation of what's happening in our mind, you know. And it's quite easy to get lost in the external and be like, oh, you know, these people are doing this and it's all control and fear. It's like, well, what's that showing in you?
Yeah,
you know,
completely.
You know, be the change you want to see in the world, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, none of us can change the world. We can only change ourselves. And if more and more of us change, then the world has no choice but to change. So it's also that, because you were talking about spiritual bypassing. Actually, I did a YouTube on that as well. So you're hitting all my YouTube.
I will drop, for anyone listening, I will drop the link.
It's great. Yeah,
and everything. Yeah.
But spiritual bypassing can be, you know, somebody goes, right, I want to be spiritual because I want to change the world and save the whales. Well, that's really, really great, but you have to change yourself first. And once you've changed yourself, you'll realize that you can't change anything else. You know, 99.9% of everything is happening beyond our control. So, but the more of us that can change, the more the world changes, the more the vibration changes, the more that measurement of the earth changes. So it is that thing, isn't it? And again, that can be a bit of spiritual bypassing. Spiritual bypassing, I think, has been the most dangerous thing that I've seen on this journey, because I think it casts aspersions on what you and I are doing and others are doing and Liam are doing, etc. But also, it gives people, I don't know, false hopes.
Yeah, I mean, and at the end of the day,
it's always going to be there.
It is always perfect in its element because it's playing its role, right? You know, playing its role in this adventure we call life.
And it's cool if one person does something that we would say was spiritual bypassing, but then stumble across our YouTube channel, bang, our job is done. You know, and we were talking earlier, weren't we, about it doesn't matter if we just affect one person. You know, we're not doing this to affect millions of people. If you and I talking here affect a change in one person, our job is done.
Exactly.
Because at the end of the day, there were two core people that changed me. There were two people that dragged me out of that dark night. It was you and that online course.
Yeah, and it's, you know, same
And
thing.
you know, and it's just, yeah. And I never ever thought that I'd be sitting here going, yay, I want to give back, I want to serve, and if I can just help one person, it's cool.
Yeah, and that's it, and that's, you know, that's why this channel is or this podcast is unedited,
Mm,
unscripted, because, you know, someone said to me early on when I started doing my YouTube channel a long time ago, you know, post everything you record because you've recorded it for a
yeah,
reason. You know, the universe doesn't make mistakes; it's for someone.
yeah. Yeah, and I find now I even wake up thinking, oh, what am I going to post today, or what am I going to? I had no thoughts of doing a Dark Night of the Soul thing, absolutely zero. And then this morning I just sat down and did it. I
Yeah,
mean, it, and probably the more I think about it, the more it won't happen. And I want it to be raw. I want it to be real. You know, I'm sitting here on my sofa, you're sitting there. You know, I don't want it to be all fakery or anything like that. And the great thing is, I truly say that I have so little ego now. I don't care, or I don't mind. I care, but I don't mind. I don't mind if I affect one person's life or 1,000 people's lives, because the ego is not going to measure my success against that. All I'm doing is just being here to serve and put out my energy, and that's it.
and so just before we get onto the services you're offering now and a bit more about that, I just wanted, because I found this has been one of the most fascinating parts of, I think, for me, of what I've witnessed in your journey. And it's so you have animals, you love animals, and they've been a big part of your journey, and the changes in their responses to you has been fascinating. So, but I want them in your words.
Oh my God.
The horses and your dogs
Yeah.
have been amazing.
Yeah. My little guy, he's my rock. So he's just been here as my rock. So he's
That's your
nearly,
little dog. When you say little dog,
yeah, little Barney. I mean, my little rock, my little Barney. He's nearly 16 now, and he's just been my constant rock. So he has been my unconditional rock, and he hasn't changed. I think he was always here to be my rock and to be a space holder for me. But when Mum died, I took on her dog. And her dog was terrified of the world, terrified of life, absolutely scared shitless of everything. And she's now just the happiest dog on this planet. But my horse, oh my God, my horse has taken me on one hell of a journey. Holy moly. You know, has he triggered? Has he mirrored? Oh my God, the horse just looks straight into your soul. And yeah, my ability to ride him and my ability to compete him has completely changed, because our relationship and how we perceive each other and how our energies have changed between each other is off this scale. And it does get a little bit wacky, but you know, I've won classes now on that horse that no amateur should ever win. And you know, I have done it through pure being in the present moment.
and that was a journey. I remember that being a journey for you. You know,
Yeah.
looking into why you were competing.
Yeah.
I remember looking into, you know, why was it that Elaine was
Yeah.
in these competitions, and it changed. It changed
Yeah.
from,
Yeah.
you know, from competing for because you wanted the whatever, the rosette or whatever,
Yeah.
horses, but whatever you get to the joy of it.
Yeah. And now every time it's just a lesson, and whatever happens between me and the horse, it's like, whoa, what was he showing me then? Whoa, what was he showing me then? You know, and my horse, I've had him since a young horse. He's a big sports horse, and anybody that knows horses, we go out riding. So you know, when you see people pissing you off on the roads, that's us out hacking. My horse would not go out hacking. Zero, zero, zero. Within 3 months of being on this journey, my horse now hacks anywhere. and that's after 6 years. And that is just purely because something changed in me. And what changed was I no longer said, you have to go out, blah, 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 blah. And I also gave him, and Matt, you and I have been talking about divine feminine, divine masculine roles. I was behaving as a divine masculine towards him. And he was coming back to me as divine masculine. So I was going, you will do that. And he'd go, I won't do that.
The top kind of traits, the
toxic traits, the divine masculine. Instead, as soon as I went back into divine feminine and the caring, the nurturing, the space holder, and allowed him to be the big divine masculine, I'm safe, I'm secure, I can get this done. The second that our energies changed into the roles they should change into, regardless whether I'm female and he's male, it didn't really matter. It was the DFDM role of balance. The second we got that balance right, boof. And yes, sometimes in a competition, I have to take the divine masculine role. But he accepts that now because I'm taking the non-toxic divine masculine role. So, mate, we've got to get this job done. I know you don't like that jump. I don't really like that jump either. It's big, it's scary, shit knows what's on landing. But he allows me to now take a healthy divine masculine role that is balanced with a divine feminine role. Say, mate, we can do this with nurturing and love. So yeah, it's been a fascinating journey with the horses, and it's never a boring day with that guy.
And the one thing I just before we get onto your to your offerings and your services, that the one thing that I remember is doing with your mum's dog and doing an energy healing session in your lounge and watching the dog change like that, and it was almost like she was stoned.
Yeah, she was.
Yeah, that was
yeah,
something.
that was right. Yeah. God, that wasn't that long ago, was it? She did. Yeah, you did some theta healing, didn't you? And she just went. Yeah, she went to a different planet. She was gone. And I can remember actually you and Miller, my horse, had an energy cook-off, didn't you? And you both agreed that, yeah. And of course, we had a lovely guy come to one of our retreats, didn't we? And he really was releasing some wow stuff, and very much lives in a city, not horse orientated. And of course, we found him down the field with Miller, didn't we? And it was just magical. That he was just like, wow, this horse is just so amazing. So
when I was in therapy, they used to stick me in once a week. I used to go and sit in a horse paddock with some horses, and I was terrified of horses. But you know, they really did.
Yeah, I think I've been doing a Zen meditation recently, and I was taught by a Zen monk how to properly do Zen meditation, which is pretty hardcore, and I'm only ever going to do it for 10 minutes a day, but it is interesting for anybody that's interested in it. So I know how to do it now, and I do practice it every day. But the monk that taught me that, he said, you know, animals are the purest form of presence and unconditional love. If you can mirror an animal's absolute moment, I mean, they live in the present moment, end of. Full stop. Absolutely nuts. You know, neither of my dogs tell me it's 4 o'clock, it's time for food. Both of my dogs will go, okay, stomach empty, I need food. There's no, oh, look at the time. It's, you know, they just live in the very present moment. And yeah, they, you know, and at the retreats, they're all here. Well, hopefully my little rock will still be with me.
So let's talk about your retreats. Let's talk about what your services you're offering. I know it's all very new, but yeah.
It is. So I've got this beautiful space, and I just literally want to offer it out to people. My retreats are sort of come Friday night, leave Sunday night. We've got teepee tents, we've got bell tents, we've got a lovely hot tub, we've got a lovely sort of meditation garden, and yeah, I've dug out all sorts of nature and stuff and made it look quite funky but very natural. You know, there's no wind chimes or anything. I want you to listen to nature. I don't want you to listen to something false. But it's all about you coming here, and I've called it a reset retreat because it's just giving you space to reset. It's It's stopping that excuse, I haven't got time to learn that, or I haven't got time to do that. It's just purely about your time. And I think anybody needs their own self-love, their own self-nurturing time. So to me, it is a spa, you know, far, far better than a spa. You know, you come here, you eat beautiful vegan, vegetarian food. You know, we look at your diet as well as your whole holistic being. But, you know, it's meditations, and it doesn't matter if you've never meditated before. It doesn't matter how resistant you are to meditation. I've been there, I've got that t-shirt. You know, we're not going to do any hardcore Zen meditation or anything like that, unless you want to learn it, and then I'll teach it. But, you know, we'll go on nature walks. So I find the best way to start learning meditation is to walk. You know, so we'll go out on some beautiful walks. We'll have group sessions talking about what this guy is, how you start getting out of him, some techniques to get out of him. It's all the mindfulness stuff. And then I do a one-on-one session with each person. Yep. Never allow more than 4 people into the retreat. I don't want any more than 4 people. I don't want anybody to feel like they're being looked at or judged by another. So I want to keep it really, really personal so that I can do one-to-one. And then a lovely friend of mine who does Qigong, she will come in and she'll do an hour's Qigong in the garden. And Qigong is just lovely, beautiful movements, a bit like yoga, just learning to feel your body, to be in that present moment. So nothing weird, nothing wacky. It's just about you time.
Nice.
So that's,
like I said, it is a beautiful location.
Yeah.
Our ceremony's there, so
that's the plan. You know, the dogs are here, the horses are here as well. You know, if you want to go chat to them, I'm sure they're very happy. And there is a bit of luxury. You know, you'll be fed, you know, good food, there's a hot tub. You know, I just want it to be a really, really relaxing space. You know, don't bring any books, don't bring any journals, don't bring anything, just bring yourself.
Perfect.
Yeah.
And then the coaching as well, you know, for
coaching is there. You know, we can do it in person nowadays, or we can do it online. You know, soul coaching, life coaching, call it whatever you want. You know, society loves a label, doesn't it? But it's just about what you and I are doing, chatting to people, you know, helping a person. You know, it's not therapy. Don't ever think I'm a therapist. I'm not a therapist. I'm just somebody here to help guide a person and be that person that you were to me, that the guy in America was to me, you know, just digging me out of that hole and going, hey, this is what you need to do. And that's what I want to be.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on today.
No problem.
Like I said, it's been an honor to have you on today. It's been an honor to talk to you today, but it's also been an honor to watch your journey, to experience it from a kind of third party perspective. To be part of that, you know, and thank you for choosing me to be part of that. And
as well. Thank you for agreeing, even with the pretty stark starter. But it's and that's what we're here for, isn't it?
Yeah. And for anyone listening and watching, any of this resonates, anyone thinks they want to reach out to Elaine or reach out to myself, they want some guidance on anything, I'll drop in all the links of how to get hold of us. This will be going out on YouTube and also most of the podcast directories like Google, Audible, Intune, all of the different variety of platforms. But I'll drop all the links below for websites, for social media, all of that. So if anyone wants to get in contact, please do. You know, if anyone any of the subjects that we've talked about today have either triggered or have resonated, then please reach out. We're here to help. That's what we want to do. And thank you once again for listening or watching Bear Chats, episode number 2. I've really enjoyed this chat. I've really enjoyed recording this, and I hope all of you guys have enjoyed listening. So thank you to Elaine for joining us, and I hope to see everyone again soon on another episode. I think we're done. I think that's
Cool.
a wrap.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Cheers.
Cheers.